Okay, so first thing I want to show you is is how to, you want to soften the edges of brand new files because you can actually cut somebody with these sharp edges. So you want to come in with another file and just, if you think you're going to use both files, just go ahead and do both. So what do we do after we use these files?
Cut it wide.
I think I heard. We give them to the client or we throw them away. Now, if you're using them for your nail art stuff, you can go ahead and put it in you want it in a bag or a container that's labeled for mannequin use only. So, because they're expensive, they've gone up to about 79 cents a piece. And if you just keep throwing those away, once you get into a salon, you can see where they can actually cost you quite a bit of money. And you're still going to practice after the fact. These are just they're inexpensive, but they're really good little gel brushes. The difference between a gel brush and an acrylic brush is these are plastic bristles. You can see. And the plastic bristles work really well with the gel product because it's plastic also, liquid plastic. Whereas the acrylic brush is natural hair, it's safer. And so if you put this in the acrylic's going to stick to it, it's not going to want to come off, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. My two favorites for what we're getting ready to do, this is a nice brush, but not my favorite. This one's good for detailing, and the reason I like this one is because of this arch, and it fits around the cuticle area nicely, okay? Now when you actually do the building portion, this one works great because you can just grab a pretty nice size ball, set it on there, and really work it. And there's a specific technique that I like to use for making the ball and dragging it a specific way that creates the apex the way you need an apex. Now, when you are going to put UV gel on yourself or a client, I recommend that you use Tammy Taylor, and I have that in the office. I keep it in the office so that it's not wasted because it's more expensive, but your little clear gel that you all have in your kit, and we have some in the cabinet, when you put that on a person, it will burn like fire. And when you go in the light is when it burns, you think that burn is not going to stop because it continues to get more intense. Have you tried it? So you know how that is. And sorry, it's from the heat from the light causing the molecules to just rub together really fast. And from that friction, it causes that intense burn. For some reason, that doesn't happen with Tammy Taylor, and most specifically with the Tammy Taylor, this is my favorite one, and it is, has the little beautiful crystals inside.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shimmer. And when I look at this, it just reminds me of what I think heaven should look like. It is all settled in the bottom, and so what I want to do first is you can take a toothpick if you wanted to, but you really want to kind of start to stir that up. You can buy some of these that are already, it's all kind of pre-mixed into it. But it's almost kind of a different kind of gel. To me, it doesn't look this has a transparent kind of look, but also the glitter just looks really pretty on, I think. You can get this in, it's about $25 for a pot, but you can get quite a few nails out of this. You can put this over natural nails. You can put this over nail tips. I'm going to show you how to properly put on a nail tip. I'm going to do a stiletto, but I'm going to square the tip the way that I like them. You might like them differently. So once you get that mixed, it looks like that. You see that? Now, one main thing you want to do is make sure that you keep your gel brush, your gel itself, everything away from your life. Sorry, I have allergies too, and I'm constantly in through my throat. So I'm going to cover this because I have a few more things I have to do to prep my nails. First thing you want to do is size your tips, and I'm just going to do one for the sake of time. I think this may be too large, but what you want to do is go sidewall to sidewall on your tips. And if you get to a place where this one is a little bit too big, but the next one is probably going to be too small, I'm going to double check anyway. What do you suppose would be my best bet?
The bigger one, follow.
What now?
The bigger one and follow.
The bigger one, yes. You want to go, I think you're only far enough away. I can. You want to go with the larger size and downsize it, shape it to a little bit smaller. And by doing that, what you would do is come to these sides right here and begin to just slightly take that down and come back and size it again. But I think this is going to fit. And it needs to fit from sidewall to sidewall. And the best thing to do is size each one, size all of them, set them out, and have them ready. But what I need to do, now there are two different ways you can prep the nail, and that is you can use your regular file and just simply buff over the surface. When I get the cuticle area, I like to do a rounding motion, use your metal pusher, or you can actually do it with a file. But you want to get that pterygium nail tex. Would you like to tell everybody what the pterygium is?
Is that white skin that we barely can see on the nail plate and
Is it?
close to the cuticle?
Yeah, it's a thin membrane that grows beyond the cuticle onto the nail, and if you don't get that off, then your UV polishes are going to lift, acrylics are going to lift, building gel, any of that is going to lift. Now, personally, I really like the drill, and it sounds like it's going to be
It's gonna
harsh.
bring you memories.
Yeah.
But if you use a drill correctly, it's not. And you're not going to run the motor. You're not going to run the motor real strong. Now, if you set this onto the nail and it stops, then it's way too weak and you have to turn it up. But you want to come in at an angle around the cuticle, and you're just going to clean up that area. And you can get all of the pterygium. I don't know if you can see what's going on from far off. You need to come up, you can. But it barely tickles. Barely tickles. But you can really get this cleaned off nicely. You can even come up on the skin, like I said earlier, and you can get that dead skin easily. It won't damage the live skin, but it takes off the dead skin. Now, you never ever should start running a drill and keep running it constantly and never stop. You want to run the drill when you're working on someone, lift. Run the drill, lift. I prefer to run lengthwise. And with this shape, I like best because I can come into the corners. And I've worn artificial nails long enough that my nails are kind of ridged and wavy. So you can take a file and smooth all of that down. And so by going in one direction and lifting, I'm not keeping constant pressure. If you want to go back and forth, you can, but you've got to lift and get that friction off the nail, or you can cause a burn. Have you ever been burned by a drill? You know how that feels. Pretty bad. Then you can turn these up pretty high. Yeah, should probably sand some wood.
Does sound like the dentist.
Miss Jane, just a quick question related to what we were learning this morning.
Mhm.
So that little tip that you're using, the
Mhm.
little pot, is that what you disinfect?
Is it what?
Is that what you disinfect?
Yes, this comes out. You would press on this back here, and it opens up that little hole there, and that is removable. And you sanitize that, and then this piece on the outside is sanitized.
With a barbicide and the same thing,
Yes.
10 minutes?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you can actually insert that, drop it in, wash it with soap and water, insert it into your disinfectant, 10 minutes, rinse, dry, and put it into your dry cabinet. Okay, I'm gonna have to get a little closer because I can't see. When I'm at home doing this, I really get into it. Because I want to get everything out that I can possibly get. And it truly does not hurt at all. And like I said, you go over the skin. Notice how I'm going over the skin, so anything that's rough up there, I can just, doesn't hurt at all. My little duster brush. So I want to be sure that I dust all this off. I know what I didn't get. If I could get somebody to go, do you have your glue available? Now I want to come back and rough up the very tip a little bit more because I'm going to be placing my nail tip on. There are different ways to do this. You can put it out of glue and you can set it down. To me, I think it's a little harder to control. Also need the brush saver.
The what?
The brush saver
Which one is that?
for blending the tip. I like to apply just a little dot. That's closed up.
Is it the Miracle?
Yes. So you're going to come at an angle and rock it on. Come at about a 45 degree and set it onto the tip. And these are about a quarter well tip, or these may not have a well. Some are no well, some are quarter well, some are half well, some are full wells. When you go to State Board, you're going to do full well. And I have ordered some for you guys to practice with here in the office. I like to press down these sides. You can use that tool that you have for doing that. It's like it's kind of like an odd looking tweezer, but it kind of squeezes opposite. Now, once you do that, you have to do what's called beading the seam. That's where you're going to take a small dot of glue and put right there and spread across that seam. And that just makes sure that you fill any empty spots that might be there and helps to secure a little bit more. I always like to cover the glue to make sure that doesn't close up because this is by IBD. IBD is a really good brand. It's not a cheap brand. and so you want to save it. Now the shape I like is the stiletto shape with the tip squared. And I'll shape that a little bit better, but I simply do that. Come in and start creating my shape. I might want to do something a little bit different here. I want to make sure that I come straight down the sidewall and get anything off that needs to come off. Sometimes there's a little bit right in the side. Now when you ladies go to state board, you want to make sure that you don't have much resizing to do at all. You want to get your size as close to perfect as possible. Some people will put a really big tip on and then shape it to size, and that's wrong. That could lose you some points at state board.
I'll be here Thursday. I'll be here Thursday.
Make sure you get anything out from underneath, because when you put your gel or acrylic on, that's going to end up trapped. So now what I need to do is blend that seam. There's a seam that you can see right there between the tip and the natural nail. So now it's quite a little job to blend that. Those of you who have done it. So this little Miracle Dissolve is kind of like a miracle worker, right?
But we have to be careful because
Yes, if
the
you put
first
too
time
much,
I wrote the tip.
it eats away too much. So now if you have a longer well, you can put a little bit more, but you want to just put it on the surface of the tip. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a whole lot of blending. But this kind of helps to make that roll off a little bit easier. So I've sized the tip. I've placed the tip on at a 45-degree angle. I've shaped the tip. I beaded the seam, shaped the tip. I'm blending the seam. So just for the tip alone, there are quite a few steps. Now you ladies can do this now. Put your tips onto your nail trainer hand. You will, because it's cold, it's not a body, an actual hand, you're going to have to hold it on there a little bit longer for the glue to make that stick. But it will eventually. And the best thing to do is set some tips on there. Now if you're going to use a regular tip and not a stiletto, I need to show you how to make those, do those sidewalls. Or I may have already had it line those up and make those straight, not where they curve downward on the side. Then you want to go over the surface and remove all the shine. Especially when you're working with any type of a gel product, whether it's builder gel or UV polishes, any of those, it has to be a matte surface, but it also, not only does it need to be matte, but it needs to be roughed up. You take those little orange discs and rough it and buff a nail with that, you're going to find that it's too slick. And then what happens is when you put your product on there, it wants to slide around, it wants to separate and do some crazy things, and it's not going to work for you. Personally, that's my favorite length.
Are you flipping us off?
Huh?
Flipping us off?
Hey, what?
Flipping us off.
Yes, I am. So that you know. So I especially want to, now part of the blending the tip to the natural nail, it actually helps the tip to stay on better. It seems like it wouldn't, but it does help it to stay on better. And if you're going to do any clear or light colors, you want to You want that line to disappear as much as possible. If you're working on darker skin, it is harder to make that disappear. But you do have to just kind of work on it a little bit to make it disappear. And it does show through with lighter colors. So we're about ready.
I'm done with y'all.
It's out of the way. And whatever you do on the one, you're gonna do on each. If you're working on somebody else this way. Now the hardest thing, I don't know if you've mastered this yet, is if you're right-handed, it's doing your right hand with your non-dominant hand. I have mastered it, but I always feel like my left hand looks better. So the first thing I want to do, I haven't used this light yet. I don't think I can do 1 minute on it. Now I want to have, I do want this close, these close. Hide it behind there because I don't want my light getting to it. And I want this so that when I'm finished with my brush, I'm going to slip it under here because I don't want the light getting to it. So the very first thing I'm going to do, now if you are oily, anybody in here oily and have to worry about nail staying?
Me.
I have some protein bond you can use. You can use primers, and you can set that on the nail plate itself. I'm super, super dry. I don't have any issues and problems with it. First thing I want to do is set down just the base color itself, or the base itself. And I want to use this little brush right here. And I'm going to start. I like to apply it just a little bit away from the cuticle area first, and then I'll start to place it where I want it. And on this portion, I'm just going to do strokes. Because I'm blind, I'm going to have to go a little closer. And I do want to cap it. And already look how pretty that is. So I'm going to go, I think, can you all see it back here? What is that 120 minutes?
How long?
I think a thin base coat, we can do about 1 minute, but 2 minutes is what it calls for. I believe if it calls for 2 minutes, I think it's 1 and an LED, maybe even as short as 30 seconds. But my next one is going to be definitely 2 minutes. Now, when you do this, this can actually be used as a base, build, and top. You can do all three with it.
Can you put color in that?
You could. Now, there's a clear. We have a clear, a UV clear, and just clear. The UV clear is good if you're out in the sun a lot, and it has that little bit of UV protectant in it. You can actually see it when it's under the light. It looks blue, but when you come out, you can't see it.
And can you do designs like 3D designs with that, or is
I
it
don't have
right?
the Tammy Taylor colors, but you could. You could put on the clear and then get some of the gel colors. You actually need the pots of gel would be best, but you could try it with your builder gel. Put on the tips on the nail trainer hand. Put on the base. I would start with tips and not the forms on the gel. It's just really hard with the forms because the gel just wants to run everywhere. And the hardest thing with the nail trainer hand is the second step I'm getting ready to show you, and you'll see why.
How long it lasts, that one? Is it the same that acrylic?
Almost as long, probably not quite as long. I've had them to last a pretty good long while. I just like them better. I just like the way they look.
It looks very natural.
It does. But now I'm going to build them where there's an apex to them, and they'll be a little thick. But I would like mine just a little bit thicker. Okay, so that's basically it, and it's tacky, so you can't touch that. So now I'm going to take this one, So with this one, this is the tricky part. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get a pretty good size ball. And I'm gonna set this right here. I'm gonna roll it off, and then I'm gonna roll a thin section down to the center. Then I'm gonna move it slightly to the side and then to the center. And then drag it to the center, to the very tip. And it's gonna wanna run, so you're gonna have to quickly go upside down. Very quickly go upside down, because it's gonna wanna do crazy things and just go all over the place. And when you have it upside down, you have to make sure you're getting it to the apex. Somebody want to turn on my light? Now when I first go in, I like to go in upside down, but I don't want to stay there too long or I've got to have a rooftop. And then go in.
Can I go in the dispensaries in Charlotte?
Who's in dispensary?
I don't know what I want.
What is it you need?
I need a color, but I don't know what I want.
Creating an issue. What are you getting ready to do?
I'm doing a color, but I don't want color. I need to see it.
Hey,
I'll sanitize it.
sanitize what?
Well, that's all.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I think I said Gordon.
You got her go ahead.
Huh?
You call her go ahead.
Go ahead.
Me and my friend always said that. You call me a go ahead.
You would go ahead. And if it turns out nice enough, you may not have to buff it, you may not have to do anything else to it, it may be just fine. But sometimes you'll go into the light and somehow it'll just kind of create a little spark of a bubble. And it's hard to say why. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, and you'll have to buff that down and top coat it. You can top coat it with UV polish, or you can top coat it with this. The fact that this has the glitter in it makes it a tad bit rougher, so if you want it super, super smooth, you can get the clear in the Madam Tammy Taylor. But you can go on the Tammy Taylor website and buy directly from her. I think she may require your license number, which I believe she will accept your permit number since you're in school.
So if you want to add little sequins and stuff, would that be now?
You could, yeah, you could. If you were gonna add anything to it, because it's sticky, you would really need to wipe it. Then you could add stickers and then turn around and top coat. Or do your art, because it is tacky right now. It just depends. Now, if you wanted to paint on some things, you could do it at this stage. Does that answer your questions? Yeah. All right, so I think I'm okay with it. I'm seeing just minutely, it seems it's over just a little bit. So, but what I'm gonna do is take my alcohol, and what I like to do, I like to get it very, very wet. And when I first come in, I don't like to just drag. I'll come in and very gently, just like. When you do this, you feel like you're just gonna run the whole thing. But does it not just look like what you think heaven looks like?
Can I touch it?
You can touch it.
Yeah. That looks cute.
And a lot of times I have like jewels, like I've got this one really big bow that sometimes I'll set right back here like on this one because I just think it's cute. Just have different things that you can add to it. Now if I'm going to add like a bow on here, I will rough up this area and I'll set a ball of acrylic. And I'll set that into the acrylic. And then if it's a big jewel, I like to come in and fill it underneath. Because if you don't, that's when you run your fingers through your hair or do anything, it's going to get caught. It may not come off, but it's going to feel like your nails got ready.
So you can put acrylic on top of that one.
Huh?
So you can put acrylic on top of, the gel.
Yes, but anything that I add to it, I like to rough it.
Rough it up.
Acrylic pretty well sticks to anything, but my fear is that it's gonna come off. So anything I'm gonna add to it, I'm gonna rough up the area right where I'm gonna set it. I feel
Can
like
you do the
it's safe.
same with acrylic, like do your acrylic now and then top it off with that one?
You could, it's just like a UV top coat, basically. You're just brushing it on. It's like the buttercreams, those buttercream colors that you brush on. It's just applied a little bit differently. But this one actually is a base, a builder, and a top all in one. But I think they're just pretty, just like that.
I like
You
that.
just keep
Like
them
that,
really
yeah.
simple like that. I did see one nail in I've been thinking about it ever since COVID shut down, but this nail is clear and it has jewels back here and through here, nothing in the center, and a few little jewels on the tipping end. And it is so pretty. I thought I just got to try that. So, this is gonna prompt me to finish my nails. Finally. Any questions?
Nope.
Now,